I'm Bob Schieffer. Osama bin Laden sends out a new message, says he personally assigned the people responsible for 9/11, and claims Zacarias Moussaoui, the only person convicted in this country in connection with the attack, had nothing to do with it. We'll start there tonight, and we'll have these stories.
I'm Jim Stewart. The snipers who terrorized the D.C. area a few years ago, well, they had much bigger plans in mind.
Executives at mortgage giant Fannie Mae are accused of cooking the books to give themselves big bonuses they didn't deserve. I'm Anthony Mason.
And I'm Trish Regan with the online chat rooms where thieves buy and sell your identity.
This is the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.
Good evening. Osama bin Laden has sent out some strange messages, but none stranger than the audio tape he released on the internet today. On it, he says that he personally assigned all of the 19 hijackers who took part in the 9/11 attacks, and he says Zacarias Moussaoui was not part of the team. Moussaoui, of course, says he was, and he's the only person in this country to be convicted in connection with the attack. Our chief foreign correspondent, Lara Logan, is in New York tonight, has been working this story. Lara?
Good evening, Bob. Well, the authenticity of this tape has not been verified yet, but the early reaction from officials is that there's no reason to doubt that it's him. However, what's very different this time is the tone used by bin Laden. He's very direct, his message is much shorter than usual, and in an almost American way, he starts by saying, "I'm going to be short with this message." On a website often used by Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden posted a tape, his third this year, but this time specifically addressing the issue of Islamic militants currently in U.S. detention. He said Zacarias Moussaoui, the only person convicted in the U.S. for the September 11th attacks, had no connection whatsoever with the Al-Qaeda operation. Adding, "I'm certain of what I say because I was responsible for entrusting the 19 brothers with the raids." Moussaoui was sentenced this month to life in prison with no chance of release after confessing to being involved in the 9/11 attacks. But bin Laden called his confession false and said it was a result of the pressure put on him for the past 4.5 years while in U.S. custody. Then he went even further, saying, "I am also certain all the prisoners of Guantanamo, who were captured in 2001 and the first half of 2002, had no connection whatsoever to the events of September 11th. Bin Laden added finally, "Many of them have no connection with Al-Qaeda." If this is bin Laden on this audio tape, it's not the first time that he's claimed responsibility for the September 11th attacks. Some analysts see that as an effort by the Al-Qaeda leader to show that he's still in charge. U.S. officials, when you talk to them, constantly try to preach that bin Laden has become irrelevant and is little more than a symbolic figurehead. Well, this is one way that he may be trying to counter that. And in terms of his own audience and getting out his message, it's proved to be very effective information operations campaign. Bob.
Thank you very much, Lara. Afghanistan's President Karzai ordered an investigation today into a U.S. airstrike on anti-government Taliban fighters that also killed at least 16 Afghan civilians. The target of yesterday's attack was a religious school where Taliban fighters were hiding near the city of Kandahar. Dozens of Taliban were killed, but bombs also hit nearby homes. Back in this country, the purpose of Fannie Mae, the government-sponsored mortgage company, is to help families achieve the American dream, a home of their own. Well, federal investigators say that company executives have been fulfilling some dreams of their own by giving themselves undeserved bonuses. And today, Fannie Mae was fined $400 million for cooking the books and deceiving investors. Our business correspondent, Anthony Mason, here with more on that. Anthony?
Bob, Fannie Mae is no ordinary company. It finances 1 in every 5 home mortgages in this country. Congress created it to help lower-income Americans get access to mortgage money. Now the government says Fannie Mae's executives were putting some of that money in their pockets. When Franklin Raines strode into Fannie Mae's corporate boardroom in 1998 to take over as CEO, he was met with applause. But a scathing government report out today says Raines presided over an arrogant and unethical corporate culture.
Senior management manipulated accounting, reaped maximum undeserved bonuses, and prevented the rest of the world from knowing about it.
The report says between 1998 and 2003, Fannie Mae overstated earnings by more than $10 billion, manipulating them to maximize bonuses for company executives, including Raines. He received $90 million in bonuses during those years, more than $52 million of which was tied to hitting earnings targets.
I think earnings manipulation in itself means that they were not competent managers, and you could argue that none of it was deserved.
Fannie Mae's president said today, "We have all learned some powerful lessons about getting things right and about hubris and humility." They were expensive lessons.
The settlement includes payment of a civil monetary penalty of $400 million.
Raines was forced out as CEO at the end of 2004, but he and other Fannie Mae execs may be forced to give back some of that bonus money and could still face criminal charges. Bob?
Thank you very much, Anthony. And now to the story of those personal records, including the Social Security numbers of 26.5 million veterans that were reported stolen. It just gets worse. It turns out today the Veterans Administration has known of the theft for weeks and apparently tried to play it down when it first came to light. We're going first on this story to Bob Orr in Washington.
Well, 26.5 million veterans are just now learning their identities may be at risk.
It bothers me. Someone might have my Social Security number.
Police and government officials knew about the danger without telling the public for nearly 3 weeks. The burglary was reported May 3rd. A longtime Veterans Affairs analyst told Montgomery County, Maryland police someone pried open a window, broke into his home during daylight hours, and stole a computer, an external drive, and a bag containing computer files. Police records show another burglary was also reported the same day just a few blocks away, but nothing was taken there. About a week after the burglary, sources say, the VA contacted the local police and seemed to downplay it then. Sources tell CBS News the VA said the loss of data involved only the names of hundreds of veterans and personal identifiers. On May 18th, more than 2 weeks after the break-in, the VA finally notified the FBI about the missing data. The following day, May 19th, the FBI contacted local police and said it was a much bigger deal in terms of the personal information lost. The names, Social Security numbers, and birth dates of 26.5 million veterans were missing.
As soon as we were notified of the problem, we immediately sprang into action.
Officials stress there is no evidence so far any of the stolen data has been used to defraud any veterans. But investigators still have a lot of questions. They say all they know for sure is that a VA employee says the files are missing, taken in a burglary. The sources say investigators may ask the man, a career analyst, to take a lie detector test. Bob?
Thank you, Bob. And just because we know of no veteran so far who has been defrauded in this case, it does not mean it won't happen. 9 million Americans were victims of identity theft last year. It's our fastest growing crime, and if you want to know why, just look at what our next report contains from Trish Regan.
They're like online flea markets for cyber thieves.
He also has PIN, date of birth, mother's maiden name, Social Security number.
Chat rooms where criminals buy and sell the raw material they need to commit identity theft.
It's an online black market where someone who has obtained personal information, like Social Security numbers, credit cards, can actually go and sell it to other people who want to use it maliciously.
Michael Brown is the president of Card Cops. Consumers and financial companies use his company's web crawling technology and his agents, who work as internet spies, to detect identity theft.
If it's something more inclusive, name, address, Social Security number, bank account, it could go for 5, 10, or more.
Making the stolen veterans' data potentially very valuable.
If we've got 26 million people who've had their identities stolen, it could be $5 or $10 a piece. So you take $10 times 26 million for 260 million.
The original thief, if he decides to sell it, will put them up probably in very large blocks, maybe 100,000 at a time, and then it'll get divvied up further and further until the retail price will go up to as much as $100 a record.
And according to Aviva Lighton, who advises corporations about online fraud, once the information is sold off, it could take even more time for any irregular activity to surface.
They can hold on to it for a long time and use it 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They can also use...
And as if all this isn't unsettling enough, there's more. Security experts tell us that once these thieves get a hold of these social security numbers from internet chat rooms, they can actually create names to go with these accounts, thereby creating entirely new identities. Bob.
Thank you very much, Trish. That's an amazing story. Coming up next, for the first time, one of the D.C. area snipers speaks publicly about the killing spree and tells a tale of terror that might have been had they not been caught. Air Force General Michael Hayden is a step closer to becoming the next director of the CIA. The Senate Intelligence Committee today endorsed his nomination by a vote of 12-3. The full Senate is expected to vote later this week. The two men who terrorized the Washington, D.C. area with a string of 10 sniper killings came face to face in a Maryland courtroom today. Lee Boyd Malvo, now 21 years old, testified against his former mentor, 45-year-old John Allen Muhammad. And as bad as their crime spree was, according to Malvo, it was supposed to be a lot worse. Here's Jim Stewart.
In the span of a month in 2002, the Washington area snipers killed 10 people. But had they gone through with their original plan, one testified today, the nation's capital would have been littered with bodies. Although Lee Boyd Malvo and John Allen Muhammad have already been convicted in a Virginia trial for the crimes, with Muhammad getting death and Malvo a life sentence, this was the first time either had spoken out about the sniper spree. And in a Maryland courtroom, Malvo laid it all on the man he once regarded as his father. Malvo testified Muhammad's plan was to shoot 6 people a day for an entire month. Then he said they would switch to explosives packed around ball bearings and target school buses and hospitals for another month. He said, "We're going to Washington, D.C. and terrorize this city," Malvo quoted Muhammad. Did he say why, prosecutors asked? No, Malvo replied. The level of planning left friends and family of victims shaking their heads.
It's more of a shock than anything else, because it was so calculated. It tells you a lot of what happened. We didn't know exactly how detailed they were.
Malvo calmly explained how they did it, first scouting the target areas like parking lots and then plotting their escape. Malvo accepted credit for 3 victims, including a Washington area bus driver. Muhammad did the rest, he testified, firing a Bushmaster assault rifle from inside the pair's Chevrolet sedan that had a sniper's hole punched in the trunk. In between killings, they taunted police with notes they demanded be read to the public.
Your children are not safe anywhere at any time.
Malvo originally told police he did all the shootings, but now says that was just to protect the man that he idolized at the moment. As for Muhammad today, he said, "I think he's a coward, and he turned me into a monster." Bob?
Okay, Jim. When we come back, America's front line in the war against bird flu. Are we prepared? We'll give you a rare look inside a high-security government lab. The World Health Organization said today it cannot rule out the possibility that bird flu spread person to person among 6 members of an Indonesian family who have died from the virus. As health officials study those cases, the U.S. government is working on its first line of defense against the disease. And tonight, our medical correspondent Elizabeth Caledon takes us inside the top U.S. lab that is preparing for bird flu in Ames, Iowa.
How would you characterize your preparedness here? Are you ready if this thing happens?
Oh, I think we're very ready if this happens.
This thing is bird flu, and this is Ground Zero, the USDA's high-security animal lab in Ames, Iowa. The second any infected bird lands on American soil, this place will be on red alert. Surveillance teams around the country are already testing migratory birds like this one in Alaska. If samples of the deadly virus are found, it will be up to these laboratories to diagnose it and stop it in its tracks. Dennis Senni is a USDA scientist.
So identifying it, diagnosing it, that is job number 1?
That's job number 1. That's our responsibility.
There is no bird flu virus here now, but during a rare behind-the-scenes tour today, USDA employees demonstrated what they'll do if and when it shows up.
Is this the state-of-the-art diagnostic tool for avian influenza?
This is considered the gold standard.
First, they'll determine if birds have been infected here. Their testing then exposes embryos in eggs and live chickens to the virus.
If you're going to be testing and looking for signs of disease, you need to start with a healthy bird to begin with.
If the birds die, scientists will then be able to tell if they're dealing with the deadliest or most pathogenic strain.
If that happens, Bob, if the deadliest strain of bird flu does show up in this country, scientists here tell me they'll react immediately, creating intense monitoring of both the wild bird and domestic poultry populations in that region. And given the WHO's report today about those cases in Indonesia potentially being caused by human-to-human transmission, it makes stopping the virus in birds all the more important. Bob?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. There was more encouraging news today about Barbaro, the Kentucky Derby winner who was badly injured in Saturday's Preakness. Veterinarians say that Barbaro appears to be recovering from surgery on his broken rear leg and is walking very well, they say, with a fiberglass cast. They say his vital signs are normal, and their top concern now is the threat of infection. Former Texas Senator and later Treasury Secretary Lloyd Bentsen died today at his home in Houston. Bentsen had a record of 3 decades of distinguished public service as a congressman and senator from Texas and the Clinton administration's first Treasury Secretary. In 1988, Michael Dukakis chose him as his vice presidential running mate on the Democratic ticket, and for all his achievements, he may be best remembered for the put-down that he leveled during a debate with Republican vice presidential candidate Dan Quayle after Quayle compared himself to John Kennedy.
Senator, I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
The line brought down the House, but it was one of the few bright spots for Democrats that year. George Bush and his young running mate Dan Quayle won the election, and Bentsen went back to the Senate. Lloyd Bentsen was 85. President Bush said today that with a new government in place in Iraq, he will make a new assessment of the need for U.S. troops there. The president's facing political pressure here in this country for troop reductions. The war on terror involves hundreds of thousands of Americans, civilian and military, and none are more critical to victory than the Special Forces. So the Army needs as many Special Forces soldiers as it can get. But volunteers face a pile-it-on, weed-em-out challenge, as David Martin shows us tonight in part 2 of his series, Making the Cut.
It's not your standard weapon, but these aren't standard soldiers. They are some of the 750 new Special Forces troops the Army will turn out this year. Many of them will head straight from this training ground into secret operations, not just in Iraq or Afghanistan, but anywhere the U.S. is fighting terrorism.
Hey guys, everybody come here and look at this.
There are many ways to break down a door, and these Green Berets-to-be are learning every one of them. Some of the most unpleasant training takes place in these woods, where former Green Beret Gordon Smith
a lot of times you find food just under logs.
teaches you how to survive on the run.
Not everything comes in a cellophane package with a $1.98 a pound stamped on an FDA. And this is an example of that. They're perfectly edible just the way they are. I wouldn't say it tastes great.
Yeah.
But they're edible. Now, these grubs aren't bad. Pull it by the pincher and then bite down. And then, no, actually, he was pretty good. That's a better one. Some are good, some are not so good. But there's plenty out here if you need any, so.
I knew this was going to happen.
Just bite the pincher side off. Yeah, just hold on that part and eat the rest of it. You'll find it's not bad at all. It's mostly mental, really. It's just getting over that food. That's not bad at all.
All these soldiers will eat grubs and worse before their training is over. And they will learn to hide from the enemy.
What they teach you here is that your worst day of evasion is better than your best day of captivity. One way to evade the enemy, hide out during the day, travel at night.
It's unconventional warfare, and the training uses everything from a camp deep in the woods of North Carolina to a small town where a home has been turned into a mock safe house.
935, here's your target packet.
At the table are 3 Army captains. Tonight it's an exercise, but they could go straight from here to head 12-man Special Forces teams behind enemy lines overseas. Tonight, the training mission is to knock out an anti-aircraft site.
Move, move!
The assault is conducted under cover of darkness. Our cameras are here to record it. But in the real world, you might never know this even happened or that American troops were involved. David Martin, CBS News, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
That's the news. Time to go home and have some dinner. One other note, ABC News today named my longtime friend Charlie Gibson as the new anchor of their evening newscast. We want to wish him the very best. I'm Bob Schieffer. We hope you'll come back to see us tomorrow night. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, click on CBSNews.com. Brought to you in part by Walmart. Walmart and Sam's Club pharmacies accept all Medicare prescription drug plans. And at the Walmart price, you get a great value for your prescription dollars.